I feel the Spirit moving in me. I feel the Spirit moving in me.
Aloha, welcome to Unity Church of Maui Sunday service. Some time ago, a soldier was on patrol in the jungle of Burma. He was young, he wasn't used to being away from home, and he was at war, and he was very much afraid. And a horrendous thing happened. The scout for the patrol that he was in came and announced to the patrol that their patrol had found its way in the center of the Japanese army. And the Japanese army was huge, and they were totally surrounded, and there was no way out. And the poor soldier was afraid, and he thought for sure that this was going to be his last day. And much to his surprise, the commander of the patrol said to everybody, "Sit down and let's have a cup of tea." And everybody thought, "What? How can you say that?" And this poor guy, this poor soldier is thinking, "This will be my last cup of tea." And he's thinking, it's a manly thing. It's the army thing to fight your way out. And certainly you'll take some of the enemy with you if you're to die. But that wasn't the choice of the commander. So they all sat down and they sort of nervously had this cup of tea. And then when they were done with the tea, the scout came back, and the scout whispered in the commander's ear. And the commander turned and looked at the patrol, and he said, "Okay, gentlemen, the Japanese are gone. We are free to go. So pack up your things and let's leave right away." And all of that patrol got out safely, and nobody was hurt. And the soldier says that he learned a huge lesson that day, because he learned that when you're surrounded, when things seem ominous and dangerous, to sometimes just to relax and stop and have a cup of tea. And he said that this advice saved his life, saved his consciousness, and helped him remain calm in many times in his life, when he dealt with difficult relationships or when he dealt with pain or illness in his life. So this story and this talk today is based upon the Henny Penny story. You might remember Henny Penny was a chicken, and one day Henny Penny was picking up corn when whack, an acorn hit her upon the head. And she says, "Goodness gracious me, the sky is going to fall. I must go and tell the king." There are many versions of this story, but the basic premise is that a chicken eats lunch one day and then believes that the sky is falling. And because that acorn hit her in the head, then she decides to tell the king and all of the animals on the way to the palace about the fact that the sky is falling. In fact, you might remember, she says, "The sky is falling, the sky is falling." And she creates great havoc in the town, and everyone gets all upset. And there's many endings to this story, but it really is about how a historical reaction or hysterical reaction or a mistaken belief can cause disaster and can cause frustration and anger and upset. A friend of mine told me this week that he thought that our country and our world is headed for a train wreck. And my first thought was, I don't want to be on that train, right? For many of us, this time that we're living in right now, in our world and in our lives, is a very difficult and challenging time. We don't know how things are going to work out, do we? We don't know if they're going to work out for the better or for the worse. And we're dealing with many tricky things right now. We're dealing with the coronavirus and climate change and racism and poverty and polarized government in this country. And we're dealing with a difficult economy. And it feels right now as if our earth is spinning out of control. Many people are running around like mimicking Chicken Little's famous phrase, saying, "The sky is falling, the sky is falling." And to hear their rants and their ravings, we might suppose that this fable of Chicken Little is actually coming true. Then, in the classic version of this Chicken Little story, the moral is to have spiritual courage, even when it feels like the sky is falling. Recently, I got caught up in all of the news, and how many of you turn on the news the first thing you do in the morning, right? And we turn it on. I go to Yahoo, and I look at all the headlines, and I can often find myself getting all freaked out about all the stuff that's happening on so many levels in our country and in our world. And at some point this week, I realized, I don't want to play this game in this way. When my friend said he felt like we are on a train that's about ready to wreck, I thought, I don't want to be on that train. I want to do something different. And so what we're going to talk about today is what can we do to change the course of what appears to be a train wreck and to find peace and serenity in the midst of this challenging time. The Chicken Little story serves as an excellent metaphor for how our thinking can work. In this story, the chicken goes around and tells all of its friends and gets them all fired up about worrying about the fact that the sky is falling, right? And how many times do our minds do that as well? Do we take a thought and do we get on that train and we just go to Timbuktu with it, worrying about all the possibilities that could happen? All the animals in this story represent aspects of us or represent our own thoughts that go crazy and start repeating all of this insanity. So, I don't want my life to be filled with anxiety and fear because of what's going on. How about you? So I have a couple questions for you. So, have you ever lost somebody that you loved? Have you ever had your heart broken? Have you ever struggled through a difficult situation, through a difficult relationship, through a breakup? Have you ever been a victim of infidelity? Have you ever had a miscarriage? Have you ever had an abortion? Have you ever had somebody that you love cope with mental illness or dementia or some form of physical impairment? Have you ever known someone or had a friend or relative that dealt with somebody who committed suicide? Have you ever been discriminated against? Have you ever been criticized? Have you ever been ignored? Have you ever been accused of something that you didn't do? Have you ever felt unworthy or unappreciated? Now, I can be pretty well assured that we can be pretty well assured that all of us have experienced a few of those things at some point in our life. Most of us, all of us have had to deal with adversity at some time. Adversity doesn't discriminate. If you are alive, you're going to have to deal with tough times. Seems like that's part of the journey of being alive, isn't it? So here are 3 practices that we can use to develop spiritual courage in this challenging time and other challenging times in our life. The first thing that spiritually courageous people know is that difficult things happen. They know that pain is a fact of life. They know that pain is inevitable and that suffering is optional. Just because we experience difficult times, it doesn't mean that the sky is falling. We all get to experience difficult things, and really the key is to adjust the way that we think so that we don't go crazy and be like Chicken Little, yelling out to all the villagers in our head. Suffering comes as a result of holding on to limited expectations and desires. The difference, the way I see it, between pain and suffering is that those who suffer are willing to accept the reality of their pain. And they're willing to accept that things change. And those who hold on to limited expectations experience more pain because they're disappointed that things don't happen the way that they would like them to happen. In Buddhism, desire and ignorance lie at the root of suffering. By desire, Buddhists refer to craving pleasure, to craving material goods, to hanging on to immortality. And all those things, if we hang on to them, they cause suffering because they're all things that pass. And in Buddhism, it's believed that wisdom comes from suffering. So when we are suffering, we can look at what's happening and say, okay, how can I change my thinking? How can I improve my life and move away from suffering? What is it that I can realize that'll bring me to a happier place in consciousness? Someone was joking around and said, if suffering brings wisdom, I wish to be ignorant. But we know, I don't think it's fun to be ignorant. I think we're on this path because we are on a spiritual path and we desire to have wisdom so that we can constructively and spiritedly deal with the challenges in our lives. The difficult and the important thing to remember is that as long as we are alive, difficult things happen. Suffering happens when we try to resist what is and when we resist change. The second thing that spiritually courageous people do is to focus their attention on things that they can change and accept the things that they can't change. My dad was in Alcoholics Anonymous, really, for my entire life. And we used to always have the Serenity Prayer hanging somewhere in our house. Do you remember it? And it goes, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change. Courage to change the things that I can. And the wisdom to know the difference. Wow. I love that. That just says so much to me about the truth principles that we practice and how important they are, and how, by changing our thinking, we change our lives. We humans are pretty good at noticing threats and weaknesses, and I've noticed that that we're kind of hardwired to see the negative things that happen. Negative thoughts tend to stick to us like Velcro, whereas positive thoughts and emotions seem to bounce off of us like Teflon. And the key is to consciously spend time finding things to be grateful for. Now, and I know that the teachings that we teach help us so that we don't allow negative thoughts to stick to us like Velcro. It's really a lot of what we work on this spiritual journey. And in the same way, we want to hold on to the pleasurable things and let and just so that we can be more conscious and more present and enjoy the moment. This is Thanksgiving week. I think this is a great time to really focus on being thankful for what is. We can change those neural pathways in our brain so that we hold on to, with Velcro, the good things, the things that we're grateful for. And we know that what we are grateful for tends to show up more in our lives, right? Because what we spend the predominance of our time thinking about, we experience more of. And I think it's so important right now in this time in the world and in this week of Thanksgiving to focus on the things that we're grateful for. So here's kind of a fun version of the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change and the ability to change the people I cannot stand. I love that. Of course, we know that the only things that we can change are the things about ourselves that aren't working. We can't force somebody else to change, but what this says to me is, what I can work on is me. And if there are parts about myself and my thinking that I'm not happy with, I can work to change that thinking. And then the third thing that spiritually courageous people do is to ask themselves, is what I'm doing helping or hurting me? This is a powerful and transformative question, I really believe, to ask ourselves when we're in a challenging time, kind of like I was, and being all stressed out about the political situation and the environment situation and all that, is to ask myself, is this working for me? And then I decided it's not, and so what can I do about it? When we ask ourselves whether what we're doing or thinking is working, and then begin to look at how we can change that, we really gain our power back so that we can change the way we're thinking and live powerful lives. So I know it's my effort always to make a conscious effort to be aware if something is harming me. When I found myself caught up in all the Yahoo news to say, this isn't working, let's go look at something else that's more pleasurable. Let's go read the Daily Word, or let's go find something that's inspirational to focus my attention on. Chicken Little says, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. And the pig says, so what if it's falling? Well, hello, the sky is made of air. And that kind of reminds me that all of the things that we're usually afraid of are really nothing. Like the sky is falling, it's just air falling. It's really nothing that is consequential that causes any damage. It's our thought about it that is dangerous. So, if it ever seems to you like the sky is falling, realize that difficult things happen. And number 2, focus on what you can change and what you cannot change. And then practice changing the things that you can, and spend your attention on things that you're grateful for. And I like that we have a gratitude practice that we use every day. And that's how we end our day, is to focus on what are we grateful for today? What happened today that we can say, wow, this is a magnificent day. This was a great thing that happened today. And then the third thing is to ask yourself, what am I doing that is helping me or hurting me? And then make the change in your behavior. I don't want to pretend that thinking this way will remove all of the pain. But I've learned that this technique has helped me in the last couple weeks not to buy into the illusion that the sky is falling. And as a result, I've experienced more pleasure and more peace and more love. Ambrose Redmoon wrote, "Courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the judgment that something else is more important than fear." And the affirmation for today is, today I meet every challenge with spiritual courage and power. Today, I meet every challenge with spiritual courage and power. Let's say that together. Today, I meet every challenge with spiritual courage and power. And I invite you to close your eyes. And let's bring our attention to our breath. Breathing into this moment. Breathing into the courage and the power that we are, that you are. Breathing in. Stepping into the allness of spirit, into the strength, into the light of love. Breathing in and breathing out. Today I meet every challenge with spiritual courage and power. Today, I meet every challenge with spiritual courage and power. And feel that. Feel that courageous strength in your mind, in your body, in your spirit. As you stand in this courage, and to be aware even when it seems as if the sky is falling, or it feels as if you are surrounded by the enemy. To stand in that strength, in your power. To have a cup of tea. To reflect. To know the truth. To be the presence of love and light wherever you are. Thank you, loving Spirit, for this moment, for this lifetime. For the ability to discern the truth and stand in our power with spiritual courage. And so it is. Amen. Namaste. And I'd like to invite you at this time to prepare your love offerings and your tithes and your contributions to Unity Church of Maui, and to thank you in advance for your gifts that help us to continue to do this great work that we get to do. And as you prepare your gifts, I invite you to consider your gift today. Hold the idea in your mind of what it is you are to give, and to give thanks for it, to give thanks for your ability to give thanks for your spiritual strength. And if you have a physical gift, you hold that in your hands as well. And let's affirm and pray together our prayer for prosperity, which begins through a grateful, giving heart. My mind and life overflow with the abundance of God's all-providing, infinite supply. And so it is. And if you're wondering what to do with this wonderful gift that you have, I have a couple ideas. You can send it to Unity Church of Maui at 483 South High Street in Wailuku. And you can also go to our website, www.unityonmaui.org, and click on our Safe and Secure donation button there and make a donation that way. And I know that as you give to us and support us, you're really giving to yourself and to the world, and that you are a part of this healing work that we do. And so thank you for your gifts. I have just a couple announcements today. This week is Thanksgiving, in case you hadn't noticed. And because we can't get together in the usual way on Thanksgiving and celebrate with our community, we've decided to have a Zoom Thanksgiving party on Thanksgiving evening at 7 o'clock. And we'll get together and we'll share some things that we're grateful for. In fact, I invite you to think of what you're grateful for at this time, and even to consider what can you be grateful for that has shown up for you during this COVID time. And even lastly, what can you be grateful for that may have been something that happened to you in the past that was difficult, but you've made it through it, and now you can look at that a little different and be thankful for that experience. And be prepared. We'll share that on Thanksgiving evening at 7 o'clock on Zoom. And we'll also have some inspirational music and I know some great conversation with our Unity community. And you'll find the links to this Thanksgiving evening party. It will come out this week in our newsletter and in a special newsletter that we'll send out early in the week. So I look forward to seeing you for that great event. Also, next week, my Sunday talk is titled, No Complaints Whatsoever. People complain for one of 5 reasons generally. And the 5 complaints are based around an acronym for gripe. And so people generally complain to G, get attention, to R, to remove responsibility, to I, to inspire envy, for P, for increased power, or for E, to excuse poor performance. So next week in this talk, we'll look at, how can we, what are some appropriate things to say when somebody complains? And also, how can we change the way we look at ourselves when we complain? So that'll be a lot of fun. That's next week, right here at Unity Church of Maui at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning. And then after we do this great program, the next step is we're going to do small groups based upon Will Bowen's book, How to Stop Complaining and Start Enjoying the Life That You Always Wanted. This is a great series. In fact, many churches have done it before. Perhaps you have done it, and it just seems like it's such a powerful program that we decided we're going to do it again. And kind of the basic idea of the program is that everybody that participates gets one of these wonderful purple bracelets. And you wear the bracelet until you complain. And then when you complain, you take the bracelet off and put it on the other arm. Kind of acts as a stimulus response to remind you that you complained and that you don't want to do that, because we know that complaining takes away our power, and it's not very appealing to people's ears. Have you ever noticed when somebody complains how that feels? So we're going to do small groups for a number of weeks via Zoom. And I'm really excited about this program, and we'll tell you more about it next week. And we'll start it, we're anticipating starting it on Wednesday night, December 10th at 7 o'clock. So you might want to order your book now. Again, it's called A Complaint-Free World, How to Stop Complaining and Start Enjoying the Life You Always Wanted. It's by Will Bowen. So that'll be a lot of fun. I hope you'll enjoy it and I know you'll enjoy it with us. I hope you'll join us for that bit of enjoyment. How many times can you use enjoyment in a couple of sentences? Anyway, as you know, our Zoom events are available to link to in our newsletter and on our webpage. Every Wednesday I do a meditation and daily word reading at 12 o'clock. You can find that link in the above places. And if you enjoy our Sunday services, you can always go to our Unity Church of Maui YouTube page. We've got a whole bunch of talks up there and special music. And so that'll be a lot of fun to go there. And there's also, I just remembered something. I wanted to tell you, this next Sunday in the talk, No Complaints Whatsoever, we have incredible musicians that are going to share their videos with us on Sunday morning. And they're going to feature this song, No Complaints Whatsoever. Two of my favorite people who are Jan Garrett and J.D. Martin. You will love them. So that's happening again next Sunday. All right, let's see. I think that about wraps it up today. Thank you for being here. I love you. I bless you. I appreciate you. And I behold the Christ in you. So why don't we end this time together as we traditionally do by praying together the prayer for protection, which begins, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us wherever we are. God is. God bless you, my friend. Aloha.
Where I live, there are rain.